What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright?
So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth you cut off the victim's vest in your safe.
Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do that, being chief and all, but it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer.
Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present.
Foolish move, Righto. You should have shown it then before it was too late.
It's been a long battle, but the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now.
All right, then, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall.
Take that! Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest.
Oh, yes. At last you finally brought it out into the open.
There's a handprint on this piece of cloth.
Your Honor, the prosecution requests that be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather. There must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly.
You mean...
It could not have been forged. It must be authentic, conclusive evidence.
You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy.
What?
Think about it. Righto had all this time to present this evidence, yet he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be?
You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that?
Mr. Wright, do you really know?
Whoever the fingerprints belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they?
Very well, I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person whom these fingerprints belong to are... Take that!
Emma? Emma Skye?
What? They're mine?
I'm sorry, Emma.
But why didn't you tell me?
Oh, you're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along, and you still tried to pin the murder on me.
So it's true. Tragic, but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death.
Hold it! How could you? You monster!
Miss Skye!
You knew whose fingerprints those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't...
Ms. Skye, it's not over yet.
What?
I said this trial isn't over yet.
Ha, but I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career, too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer?
Before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up.
Oh? And what's that?
Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall?
What?
Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask?
It was Emma Skye, wasn't it?
I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction.
What? A contradiction? What is this fool babbling about?
I'm talking about a contradiction. One that proves who the real killer is.
Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict?
Chief Gant, your tyrannical reign ends here. Behold the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. Take that!
And what exactly is this supposed to be?
This is the picture Ms. Sky took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out?
Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on his vest, though.
Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth.
Oh, but that piece of cloth... Wait, there's no blood on it!
Ah!
Since Emma Sky's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt that she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword.
No! This is nonsense!
Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Ms. Sky, picked up the unconscious prosecutor, and impaled him on the armor's sword? Then, to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, said person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood. Then he broke the jar on purpose to leave behind a clue and make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what you admitted only moments ago? That you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest? Ironic, isn't it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer.
No!
It's finished.
Objection! That was close, Wright-O. You almost had me. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refute your allegations.
What do you mean you refute his allegations?
You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence.
Order! Order! What nonsense is this?
Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Aji? Earlier, old Wright-O here concealed that piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Wright-O?
Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time.
Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence.
At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence.
But that's not fair!
Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son.
I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth?
True, illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person, assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal.
Well, Mr. Wright?
It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived.
Mr. Wright, do you admit to it? That you purposefully and illegally concealed this piece of cloth?
Certainly. I refused to present evidence at one point.
Aha! So the evidence is illegal.
Objection! No, it isn't, Mr. Gant.
Huh?
It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't.
What do you mean you couldn't?
There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence.
No, Aji, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't let him.
Objection! There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not?
Very well. Let us settle this once and for all. Earlier, you refused to present evidence. If you can prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now.
Take that! This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law.
What's this?
I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more.
What?
You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself, inside your safe. It goes without saying I did not have approval from the police department. Rule 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case in trial. And here is the crux of the matter. You see, at the time it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident.
What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and...
Objection! Sorry, but can you recall when that picture was presented?
That was shown only a few moments ago.
No.
He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest.
Oh, yes. No!
It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the chief of police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moments. In other words, the real murderer. And there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant, the killer was you!